in Alaska, Kenai, Alaska, right?
Soldotna, Kenai, Soldotna.
Soldotna, Kenai, yeah. We got the Summer Lazenby. Welcome back to the show, Summer. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I
Glad
always
to.
enjoy it.
Oh, lovely to see your face again.
Thank
So,
you.
what's been happening? How's life? How's things? Been traveling?
I have not been traveling. Just it's like 75 degrees out. We finally have like a summer day
What?
here.
Holy
Yeah,
cow!
it is super nice.
That's crazy.
We've entered the time where it's, sunlight until 11:30 ish.
Right. You
Yeah.
get your little bit of summer. Summer.
Yep.
Summer gets her
Summer.
summer.
Yep.
Summer gets her summer. I
Yeah.
remember
I
like being in Juneau would be like 2 weeks, like usually like from the 1st of July to like the middle of July.
yeah, I was in Juneau a couple
It'd
weeks
be sunny and
ago.
then that.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was a unique experience because my job is it was a bunch of politics.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, although it was pretty cool. Like, yeah, I mean, I think we both have had enough experience in life that sometimes you just have a moment in life and you're like, if you had asked me 5 years ago if this is what I would be doing, this is not never would have crossed my mind. And I literally
Sure.
threw a party at the lieutenant governor's mansion, and I just
Oh,
remember
nice. I've
I
been there.
remember standing there talking to Lieutenant Governor, and it just kind of struck me, and I was like, even a year ago, I would not have thought this was
Right.
something I would be
Let
doing.
me
It
ask
was
you something.
funny.
Did you have halibut fish and chips at Deckhand Dave's?
I did not.
Oh
We
my
ate it
God. Oh
before.
no. Oh God.
We ate.
I should have given you the heads up on that. It's
Yeah,
he's
we ate primarily at the wharf, I think is what it's
yeah.
called. It's like right on the water.
Right.
They have really
There's the
good food.
hangar and
The
yeah.
hangar. That's what it
Yeah.
is. The hangar.
I used to hang
Yeah.
out. I used to hang at the hangar. My good
And then
friend Kat, rest in
I
peace,
did
used to
karaoke
bartend.
at the haunted bar that's like named after a prostitute from the like 1920s or something. I can't.
Oh God, where's that?
It's downtown, and
I'm thinking of the Emerald, and then there's like the Triangle,
I think it's no, it's not the Triangle.
and then you have the Red Dog Saloon.
It's not the Red Dog Saloon. It's a hotel. It's a bar in a
Yeah.
hotel that it literally you walk
Hmm.
in and it's like it's like red velvet.
I don't know if I've been in there,
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
it was a fun,
Huh.
that's definitely very Alaskan.
Oh
But
yeah, well everything there is.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Deckhand Dave's is well, he might not even be there anymore. Last time I was there, I think it was 2017, but he was right down there where the tour ships come in, and he had a whole
Yeah, so we weren't in that section. We were,
okay.
wait on.
Because it's not too far. It's just right up from the Red Dog. Not too far. I mean, it's
Yeah, we
downtown.
had, so you just have, oh, there you're back.
It happens every time I start a show. It's without fail that thing does that. It's just like I'm
We
just so
were,
used to it. I don't even mention it.
sure, no problem. We were downtown Juneau. We were like 2 blocks
Right.
from the Capitol, the Capitol building the whole
Okay.
time. So
Yeah. So you weren't
it
too
was
far
fun.
from there then.
Yeah, it
And
was a
then
good
like
time.
my family, they're all out in the valley, which I'm sure you didn't make it out there.
No, I did make it to Costco and Fred Meyer, but
Okay, you were close
um,
then. Fred Meyer, yeah, Fred Meyer used to be my place. Like I was there. God, see,
the
my
topics that
grandfather,
only Alaskans are going to
yeah,
understand right now.
that Fred Meyer. I'd ride my bike there. Like I spent the summer up there when I was 21, so I
Hmm.
boxed up my mountain bike and took it up there. And my grandparents own a golf course just up from Fred Meyer on like off of Engineers Cutoff. So
Okay.
if you go past Fred Meyer, there's like a Cars grocery store, and then on the other side of the highway, there's a little dive bar called the Sand Bar,
Okay.
and like an Ace Hardware. And then you go down this
Sure.
road, and anyway, that's Mendenhall Golf.
Okay.
Great view of
Yeah.
the glacier.
Oh, it's beautiful. The
Yeah,
whole city of Juneau is gorgeous.
oh yeah, I miss it. Every time I go there, I get off a plane, and it's just like I breathe
Hmm.
that air in.
Um,
That like that salty. It's just like I'm home. I mean, that's where I was
yep.
born. It's like there's something weird about it. There's some weird, even though I didn't spend. I mean, we went up there to visit all the time, but I
Sure.
didn't spend any major portion of my life there. But every time I go there, I just feel like it's like this is home. This is where I'm supposed to be. It's
I
weird.
thought I was going to be arrested in the Juneau airport.
I'm glad
Like
you weren't.
legit,
That would have
legit.
been really.
I
What'd you
thought
do?
I got an official letter of reprimand.
From who?
The TSA
For
for the
what? Oh
Department of
God, what'd you
Defense.
do? The security theater gave you a reprimand?
Yep. Oh God. Okay. So, Mike,
Oh my God, what'd you do?
I legit, because I was with my boss and like
Yeah.
several board members were down there,
Right.
and we were flying home. The lieutenant governor was on the same flight,
Yeah.
several of the legislators, and apparently Juneau does not fuck around when it comes to whatever.
When they get so
I
serious.
hadn't flown the stupid pandemic. I
Oh
hadn't
God.
flown very much.
Yeah, I haven't really at all.
I had a pocket knife in my purse, right?
Yeah.
Well, I totally forgot it was in there.
Right.
And so they, that goes through the scanner, they yank my purse. And so I'm like, I'm not even sure why they're pulling my purse. And they start fishing around and she pulls out my knife. And I was like, shit, they're going to take my knife,
boy.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so she starts looking at it, and it wasn't a switchblade, but it was spring assisted. And,
Sure.
But in the eyes of the federal government, that's a switchblade. So
Oh God.
she's like, she starts looking at it. She walks over to the Juneau Airport Police, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And she's like, you've attempted to bring a switchblade onto a United States aircraft. I'm like, it's a
Oh
pocket
my
knife.
God.
It's like, well, no, it's a switchblade. And they went back and forth. And I turned to my boss and I was like, this might be an actual problem. And so she's like, so it takes 20 minutes or whatever. I almost missed the flight.
Oh my God.
She says you're gonna receive an official letter of reprimand.
Ooh.
And so I've lost TSA pre-check.
Well, that's no big deal.
Well, it's nice to have when it's a 2-hour security line. But anyway,
Right. But when are you at like Hartsfield Jackson, Atlanta either, I mean.
Not too often, but I have been. But anyway, it was pretty funny. And so I took my letter of reprimand, and they didn't tell me when I can get pre-check back. But it was pretty funny. I was just like,
did they give you a refund?
Okay, like,
because isn't it like $85 to get pre-check?
Yeah, it is, but no. And so
I got it one time going out of DCA, and it was the stupidest thing I ever did. Reagan in DC, and I go up to the thing, right? So I go off to the, and hey, they just like gave me the offer for it. Sometimes they'll just randomly let you do it just because they're trying to sucker you into spend. So and I'm, I go to the guy, my ID, my everything, that he needed, and I said, so I don't have to take shoes off. Do I need to take? And the thing, it wasn't the body scan; it was just the metal detector, and the thing goes off. And I'm like, so I look at the other guy. I'm like, I've got a belt on. Do I need it? He's like, no. He goes, but you need to go. Well, it's going to go off again because I got a metal buckle on. And so I threw again, and they start shaking my belt off. And I'm like, I have asked both of you idiots whether my belt off or not. And it took longer, literally, for me to go through there and deal with those morons than it would have taken just to go through the regular deal. I mean, I used to travel like every weekend. Used to the, I got in trouble with them a number of times too, because I would always to the.
I have a feeling I'm always going to be randomly selected now.
Tech.
Oh yeah.
I used to right after 9/11 because I was always flying and I always paid cash one way, and I never had long hair, bearded. I was always wearing, a Hawaiian shirt with, flip flops on. I mean, at the gate, like they were like, Mr. Fox been randomly selected. And imagine that.
Yeah.
I remember going through one time and there was two women that were working the gate in Seattle, and some little teeny tiny scissors, like some, in my toiletries bag. Little teeny, like little teeny tiny scissors, and they couldn't speak English.
Yeah, the bad
and
guy.
They're screaming at me that I have to go back through security. The flight, I'm like, I was always like, I flew Southwest, And I never would try and get the first board. I always wanted to get on the plane last. I never understand why somebody wants to get on the plane first, unless you're in first class, because there's no other reason to do that. And you're just going to go in there and sit there with a bunch of stinky people.
I go to sleep. I like to be asleep before the plane even takes off. So that's why I
always go on I'm always the last person on, especially if I have a seat assignment. It's like, why would I want to get on? And I only ever carry, I mean, even if I'm going for 2-3 weeks, I have one carry on with me and that's it, because I don't want to deal with checked baggage. And if I'm on first class, I'll get on right away because, hey, that's free drinks, I mean, sure. And then you can sit there and you can mock all the other passengers that are walking. You go, oh, look at those, look at them going to coach. Look at them, look at the plebes going to coach. You're cheering the person next to you.
Yep, with your hot towel.
Yeah, we're so much better than them.
Until you're back being a plebe, and then you're like, oh, hoity-toity first class.
Bunch of peasants. Yeah. The one time we had, I think Jackson and I had the last seat on it was a big, huge plane going into Dulles. And it was seriously, this landing was worse than anything I've ever had in Alaska. And that includes single engine Cessnas or float planes.
Oh, okay.
It was bad. Like my drink flew off my the tray and it hit the overhead thing. I mean, that's how bad it was.
I hate those flights.
And people started puking, and my son was throwing up. He filled up his barf bag, my barf bag. And it was one of those, I think, 3 on each side and then like 6 seats in the center.
In the middle.
Yeah, it was big. It was like an Airbus or something. And this lady across the aisle, she's like, here, she's handing me the bag. And I'm, and he's, and I'm like, and the whole fuselage just stunk. I mean, everybody was throwing up. And so we were in the very back row. Like I looked behind me and of course the flight attendant was right behind me. She's strapped into the seat and we touched down and it was one of those squirrely ass landings.
Oh yeah.
And I turned to her and I go, ma'am, could my son please get in the lavatory? And she's like all queasy too. She's like, yeah, go right ahead. So I put him in there and then, they ended up opening up the back of that plane to get people off that way too. They pulled up 2 ramps to it because it was there was so much puke in there. I'm sitting there, the whole thing, that smell of, you can hear people barfing and then the smell and you're just like.
It's like the scene in Stand By Me where one person starts barfing.
Just thinking about it right now makes me kind of go. These kids were coming back to the back and Jackson's in the bathroom and he gets out and they had pulled the ramp up on the back. So that was the one time that being on the very tail end of the plane was awesome. Because we were the first ones off and we were out of there. But it was so bad. It was just disgusting. And just you're in an enclosed area like that. So they gave you, anyway, back to your story. They gave you a reprimand. Is that in written form?
I got a certified letter that I had to go sign for, and it was a full ass page from the Department of Transportation or Department of Homeland Security. That's what it was. Department of Homeland Security.
Did Mayorkas sign it or Pete Buttigieg?
I don't. Yeah, it was just Anchorage. It was Anchorage.
Jesus Christ! It was probably the most important thing they did all week.
Yep. And
Summer Lazenby carried a switchblade on.
Same mistake, I could face thousands of dollars of fines. There's no appeal option.
Because you just made a mistake.
Yeah.
You obviously didn't have it when you went there, right? Something it was like a souvenir or something you bought while you were there?
No. That's what I pointed out to her. I said,
oh, so you made it through with it the one way.
I got through the Anchorage airport with this in my purse and they didn't find it. And she goes, well, we found it here. I was like, okay, I'm not.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I was not going to make a scene because I really was trying to avoid
it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you get no argument from me. Take my knife. Here's my name and here's my information. And what's going to happen is about to happen. So arguing is not going to get me anything out of it. So I was just like, okay. And
they've got a 0% rating of catching anybody. I have a friend that goes through there and his job is to try and get through.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Middle Eastern. Mm-hmm. And so That he says 97% of the time he makes it through. And he says it's a real shit show when he doesn't, though, because he's got to show his credentials real quick because they start freaking out because of his appearance and everything.
Well, and when I used to fly a ton, it's not the first time I've left a pocket knife in my purse.
I've given one to him before.
Alaskans people in Alaska, I guess. I don't know the rest of the
same in Wyoming.
Pocket knives are just a dime a dozen. I was upset because this was like a super nice knife. I was really pissed. And that sucks. I held on to it for like 5 years. I had not forgotten it was in my purse. And then to have I was like, God damn it. I was pissed. I was not happy.
I gave one to I gave it was a Columbia River knife and tool, and I had it in my golf bag. And so when I flew to LA, my golf bag was in there, and that's the only time I ever fly with a checked bag is when I'm going to play golf.
Sure.
And so I had that in my golf bag because I use it as a ball mark tool or whatever. And so I was out there playing golf, and I'd done I always have one. It's weird. I'm reaching for my pocket right now, and I don't have one in my pocket, which is crazy. But I just put it in my pocket, and the whole time I was in LA, I didn't think about it. And then I got dropped off at LAX to fly out, and of course, I had it.
Yeah.
And I just went up and I was like, I told the guy, I was like, look, do you want a knife? And he's like, look, I'm like, look, dude, my bag's already been checked. Obviously I can't bring this through.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like a $70 knife. Do you want it?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, well, I'm like, I don't care what you do with it. I'm obviously not going to walk through here with it,
Yeah,
and he took it, and I didn't, obviously I didn't get a letter of reprimand or anything. I've been pulled off. I got pulled off. I don't know. I was talking about TSA actually a few episodes back, just about the fact that it's security theater.
It's security
and
theater.
that they've never really caught anybody. I mean, the underwear bomber was caught by another passenger. The shoe bomber was caught by another passenger.
And 20 years later, we still take off our shoes.
It's just a joke. I mean, and so I told a story about the first time that I dealt with it. And I'd been flying to Reno like every weekend from Seattle. And so this particular weekend, I'd met a girl at one of the shows that we were doing that week at a bar or whatever, and I asked her out, and she gave me her number, I gave her mine, whatever. And so it was like a week later, I was like, I called her up and said, hey, do you want to go out on a date this weekend? And she's like, sure. And I said, okay, go to SeaTac. Go to Southwest. There's a ticket with your name on it, and meet me in Reno, Yeah. And so she's like, what? And I'm like, either yes or no, whatever, I was like, and she's like, well, that's kind of, I was like, what? I was like, I got the presidential suite at the El Dorado. It's going to be fun, I mean, it's like, so she comes down. So the weekend gets over, and we'd been carrying on pretty much nonstop. So the morning it was time to leave. We're standing there, and they had just started doing the whole National Guard with the, carrying their guns and everything. Unbeknownst to us, they were unloaded.
Right.
But in Reno, we go through, you got to go up these stairs and then take a sharp right, and there's your security thing. And they had a guy that was special needs. I don't know if he had Down syndrome. I don't know if he had the burgers. He had something, but you couldn't understand him. And people had just gotten, nobody knew about the shoes and the belt. No one had ever had to do this. And he's yelling, and he's getting more and more irate. And as he gets more irate, the more you can't understand him. And so I start singing in the voice of Cartman, "Who can take a Muslim, fill his head with poo, oh, the Taliban can't," And they're not thinking that's very funny.
No, I don't imagine they did.
And this girl's like grabbing my arm. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, just fucking around. They've got guns. I'm like, I don't care. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But from then on, the whole game changed. And it's like, when do we go back to just, can you imagine what would happen anymore? What are you going to do with a pocket knife on a plane?
Yeah.
Or like me with a pair of freaking little, like toiletry scissors,
Yeah.
The first person that jumps up with anything like that on a plane anymore there's going to be dudes on the plane like me that are going to jump up and not give a shit.
People don't sit back and just, because pre 9/11, it was like, oh, we cooperate with terrorists because it'll work out better. But
that was just such
that went out the window on 9/11.
And that was such an anomaly that, and they pulled that thing off. I mean, it was crazy that, I mean, except for the one in Pennsylvania, I guess. But I mean,
Which that though it took 3 down flights, and that fourth flight said this is what's about to happen, and right there is when Americans started saying, "Okay, we're not sitting back, we're gonna
yeah,
fight,"
we're not playing. Yeah.
and
But
died
I
heroes
mean,
doing it. But
yeah, if anybody tried anything like that anymore, I mean, there would be like no way.
yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't happen, you know? And I mean, and that's the crazy thing is that, I mean, like I flew out to Seattle one year to go on a fishing trip. And I just took
hmm
my big backpack with me, like my backpacking pack, because we were going to be out on a boat. We were staying out at
hmm
CQ up on the Olympic Peninsula, fishing for a week. And I didn't think about it, but in the bottom of it, I had my bear mace.
oh shit,
And
yeah,
so I go to Billings and I
hmm
check in. And of course, they want to do the little litmus test, which they do. And it goes through the thing and all that. I go right through the gate. Off to Seattle I go. We go fishing for a week. We catch a bunch of halibut, some salmon. You know,
hmm
I load up a big cooler. I call the airport before I'm going to fly out. I said, listen, I have a big styrofoam cooler with a lot of fish in it that I just caught, and I'm taking it home. How much dry ice can I have? And they're like, don't worry, you can put as much as you, whatever it takes, you know?
hmm
I'm like, okay, there's no limit. They're like, nope. So I go get 10 pounds of dry ice.
hmm
I tape that thing all up, have my
hmm
buddy drop me off. He leaves. I stand there in the line. I get up. I haul the cooler up. And the lady's like, what's in there? You know, and I'm like, halibut and salmon
hmm
and some dry ice. She goes, how much dry ice? I said, 10 pounds. She goes, you're only allowed to have 5. I'm like, are you kidding me? This was this was with Horizon, which is Alaska Air. Same
Alaska
thing.
now,
Yeah,
yeah,
same thing. You know, but I was flying one of the prop things into Billings, you
turboprop,
know. Yeah, one of
yep,
those nice little deals. So I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And she's like, well, you can go out front and dump it out. And I'm like, lady, if I go out here in front of all these cops out here in front of the, you know, SeaTac up there at the top, I mean, there's police everywhere. I'm like, I go out and dump something that's smoking into the gutter. I'm like, I'm
yeah,
not doing that. And I said, and besides, I said, look at how much duct tape I have on this thing. I was like, I'm just going to Billings, you know? And so I have to call my buddy back. He gets me. I have to reschedule for the next day, take the cooler back, open it up, take some of the dry ice out, go through again. Unbeknownst to me, the bear mace is still in the bottom of my backpack.
yeah.
I get all the way back, no problems whatsoever. And then I'm going on a hiking trip and I'm looking for my bear mace. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh. I reached down on the
hmm
bottom because there was like I kept rain gear and stuff in the bottom of it that I like
Sure,
never took out, and it was just buried under there. Like I never
exactly.
like out here you don't have to use that very often, so it was just there, and I found it. And I went, holy shit! I just flew like from Billings to Seattle and back, got chastised for
Gas
the
the whole
dry ice.
airplane.
I mean, and I was using that bag. I mean, at that time it was a carry on. That
hmm
bag was. I mean, can you imagine what would I mean? I never even thought about it till I got back. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
and
even.
that's just it. You just don't
I
think
mean,
about it, and then you're
under
treated like a
pressure,
criminal.
but under pressure at that height, I mean, that could have easily gone off. Can you imagine a canister of bear spray going off in
Oh, it
the
would have gassed the
cabin of a
whole
plane?
airplane.
Oh, it'd be an emergency landing, including the captains. I mean, it could go right into
Yeah,
the air system.
it would go in the air system, and that's
Oh,
that. Yeah,
everybody would be
no.
done. They'd
And
be
I
done.
actually took a hit of bear mace to my face once.
Oh God, why?
I didn't do it on purpose.
I wouldn't think so, but you never know.
My ex-husband and I went
Oh my
on
God.
a 3-day canoe
Oh,
trip, and we were um,
oh,
the canoe trip was over, and his dad came to help us load shit up and stuff, and
yeah.
um, we had
Jesus Christ.
water was weird, and so there was like a so the we couldn't quite get to shore because it was really low, and
Yeah.
so we had to kind of fjord this little. There was like a sandbar, and then more water, and then
Yeah.
actual bank, and so we were chucking stuff over this water, and his dad
Oh no.
chucked bear mace, and it hit and
And
sprayed all over my ex-husband's clothes.
oh
He
God.
didn't get it in his face, but it just hit his
Yeah.
clothing.
Doesn't matter.
Well, mind you, a couple hours later, we get home and I go to do laundry, and it
Mm,
didn't smell or anything. And I
right.
picked up all the clothes, stuffed them in the washing machine, and our washing machine was in the bathroom. And I
Right.
immediately turned around because now I'm going to get a shower. And
Oh.
so I immediately turned around and took out my contacts
Uh-huh.
and I went bloop, bloop. It was like, oh my God, it was the most
Oh,
burning pain. And instantly I knew, shit, that bear mace was all over his clothes.
right.
And oh my God, I was like, well, that'll chase off a bear. I don't give a shit what you say.
It's horrible.
That I wanted to run away from my own eyeballs. It
Well,
hurt so bad.
do you remember in high school, there was a guy that they were over in the annex. Remember where the practice rooms were for the band? By the band
Yeah.
room? They were in one of those practice rooms,
Yes.
and
They
there's some kid, a girl had a little
pepper spray.
keychain, and he shot it off, and it went through. Remember they
And the whole
canceled school.
thing. Yep.
I remember I was sitting in
I remember that.
I was sitting in like biology class, and all of a sudden everybody's just coughing and hacking, and then the
They
school was
evacuated
over.
the school.
Yeah, it was done that day, and that was just one.
Yep.
I mean, he just put one little squirt, and that went through the
Yeah.
HVAC system, and the whole place was evacuated. I
Yep.
mean, I can't even imagine getting hit with that shit. I
Yeah,
mean, it's got to be terrible.
It was not fun.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, so are you washing the clothes in hot water?
Yeah, right. I don't know what I was like. Oh God, I don't.
So
even,
that
I was like,
steam
I don't even
effect,
wanna
and it just
touch-
came. Oh god.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it was like I put it right in my eyeballs from my
Yeah.
hands to take my contact lenses out.
Oh
It was,
god. Oh, so it came from. Okay, it wasn't coming out of the water. It was from
It
your
wasn't
hands.
coming out of the washer. It was just
Okay.
all over my hands. when
Okay, I got you.
Cleaned up the clothes.
Okay. Okay, I was thinking
Yep.
that.
And so
I was
then-
thinking you put it in your washing the clothes on hot or something, and then the
Nope, it
steam,
was-
because I mean that would have probably.
That would make sense too, but nope. It was just
Oh god,
went from on his clothes to on my hands.
that's like cutting jalapenos and putting your
Yeah.
hands someplace where you shouldn't.
You put touching something when you shouldn't. You got it.
That's
It
why you
was-
wear
it
rubber
was-
gloves.
Yeah, this
I
was
cut
like
some
more
up
like
the other day.
cutting ghost peppers instead of
Yeah. Yeah, you can go to the restroom and
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that's a
yeah,
challenge you
well,
children sometimes have.
or touch your eyes or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's nasty stuff. Little treat for you, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
No, I was
don't know.
laughing too because I was, going through SeaTac one day, and I told this story a while back on the podcast when I was talking about TSA, just because I wanted to do an episode on it because I think that it's such a hilarious organization,
Yeah.
and the fact that we gave up so much of our freedom just because we were scared. That now you have these. I mean, like I've gone through Bozeman's airport. There's one line, and there's 20. I counted 23 of them there one day, and you think about it, you're like, this is a governmental agency. I mean, what a waste of money. I mean, I'm counting 23 people. So anyway, I'm going through and
if they were to reduce it, and the minute something happens, then it would immediately be like, oh, we backed off TSA. They were so effective.
right. Well, and that's the other argument they make is, well,
Yeah.
there hasn't been anything happen because of TSA, and it's like, no, that's not the case. They don't catch 95% of what goes through there.
Yeah.
There's people that are
every
paid to do
Alaskan
it.
has a story about shit they accidentally took through.
Sure, we've all done that. I mean,
Yep.
we've all done it. I mean, I was going through Seattle one day, and it was weird. I got there extra early, and I'm looking in the line. It's like, there's nothing there, and I'm like, well, I like this little bar up here. Then I knew the lady in there. She made good Bloody Marys or whatever. So I'm like, well, I go up there, then I go to the little newsstand, and then all of a sudden I look down, and the line is just like, it's all through the turnstiles into like the
Yep.
B concourse. I'm like, shit. So I go get in the line, and it's just forever, And I mean, it's one of those days where nobody in front of you understands what to do. Like I get up there, I've got my shoes off, I've got my belt off, I've got my wallet stuffed in my bag, I've got everything out of my pockets. Like I'm like
Ready.
literally.
Yeah.
I get up there, you give me a tray, I'm good. Like
Yep.
there ain't no question. So I get up, and the dude standing there, he's like yelling about water bottles. He's got the trash can full of water bottles next to him. Well, I'm feeling a little bit smart assy. And so I'm like, hey, excuse me, sir. I said, you guys are so worried about these water bottles having explosives and shit in them. I'm like, why do you have everybody put them in the trash can right next to you and right next to all these passengers? I'm like,
Yep.
if you were so concerned about this being explosive, wouldn't you like have some other way to dispose of this? I'm like, because if a terrorist really wanted to do something, they could do that with a water bottle. And I said, they'd throw it in there and they'd go through and get on the plane and click. And I said, and
Yep.
they wouldn't have to worry about the suicide vest, dog. And boy, he didn't like that very much. I got pulled in the back room, and then the supervisor guy came in, and he was like looking like Ron Burgundy or some shit. And I'm like, look, dude, I said, I've been in federal prison, man. I said, you want to look up my ass? I said, I've had that happen a number of times, dude. I said, you want to, it's up to you, man. I was just making a comment because what you guys are doing is an exercise in futility, and he kind of looked at me and got all shitty with me for a little bit and then just, But I mean, really, what kind of sense does that make?
I didn't get the
you got a letter
probe, but I got the
you got a letter
under the boob. Well, I was a smart ass.
Yeah.
When they first implemented those full body scanners, and there was all the controversy that it shows everything. So I I was like this, and as the thing went by, I went. And they go, why did you do that? I was like, well, if
why not?
See everything, I figured I'd give you something fun to look at. And they're like, well,
yeah, maybe, yeah.
I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll stand still. They're like, nope, you don't get that option anymore. Come on over here. And
oh God.
They called the lady out from the back, and I got the whole. I'm going to slide my hands under your breasts. I'm going to.
Oh my God.
Slide my hand along your vagina. I was like, yeah, have at it, lady.
Well, they couldn't. Just because you did it, just because you gave a little shimmy shim.
I did a little. Whoop, whoop.
A little shimmy shim. I'm so used to it now. I mean, I go through it, and immediately I go through the other side. I stand on the little footprints. I turn around and I hold up my hair. I'm like, here, because every time my hair goes off, Yep. And they're like, well, you kind of knew. I said, this was back when I was flying like every weekend. And, I was just like, it was just a given. But I remember the first time, though, I just got out of prison. It was like 4:30 a.m. I walk out the front door of federal prison. I've been in there for years. I get put on a goddamn shuttle bus with a letter from the Bureau of Prisons and my BOP ID card.
Okay.
And the letter said, this man needs to be on this flight or whatever. I'm freaking out, right? I've not been around people for quite some time, and I get dropped off at LAX, and I walk in there. I got nothing with me. I had one folder that had my paperwork, and that was all I brought back. And that letter and my and I walked where I didn't know what. I'm standing there like a deer in the headlights, and this lady at the desk up front, she's like, "Oh, sweetheart. Come here for a minute." And she goes, don't worry, I got you through the line. But then they put me in that line for that. I'd never been through a body scanner thing before. Like that was implemented while I was locked up. The last flight I'd been on was Con Air, and that's a whole different story. And Con Air is a real thing. Con Air is a real thing. Con Air is fucked up. Like you're on there with dudes that never been on a plane. You got the U.S. Marshals, and I mean, geez. Yeah, what a nightmare. Now there goes the thing.
Right.
Again. But no, so that was the last time, and they don't fly like a commercial flight. Like they're flying super low, and you're just going right over the mountain, Oh God. And then they bring the females on last thing too. That's always great. You got all these dudes on the thing, and then they bring the females on last thing, and they all sit up front, and the U.S. Marshals are like, no fraternizing between them, and of course, nobody's seen anybody of the opposite sex for God knows how long.
Right.
I mean, the women are just as bad as the men, they're getting like, hey, baby, and you're just like, what? You're just like, what the hell did I do to deserve this? But so yeah, I get on. I'm standing there in that line, and there's people right behind me, and I'm really not having it. So I'm like turned to the side, and I'm like side shuffling through this, because there's people right behind me, and I'm like,
and in prison, I imagine that's not
that's
not a thing.
I mean, I literally had a guard take me out in handcuffs that morning at 4:30 a.m. out of the TV room, and walk me out and put my street clothes on and walked outside of that place. And I mean, it was just, and then they put me in that thing. I didn't know what it, and they're telling me what to put your hands in here. And I'm like, what do you, I don't know what to do. And they're yelling at me. And they did the same. I went through, and because I wasn't cooperating apparently. So I had to, I got the old, touchy feely thing. which was like, whatever. I mean, it was like, I'm used to this,
Yeah.
getting frisked down. And, it was like, I was just happy I didn't have to squat and cough.
Squat cough.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I told that one guy
Well,
that. I'm like, dude, I'm like, it's like, I used to give those cops shit about that all the time. Be like, you got a great job, man. You just sit here and look at gurgling brown eyes all day, man. It's like, you're really something. They never liked that very much.
yeah.
The worst though is they would, if they suspected you like in the visiting room, like if your significant other showed up,
Sure.
you were allowed like a hug and a kiss to start the visit, and then like a hug and a kiss afterwards. But other than that, you sat across the table. But dudes, their girls would bring in balloons with whatever in them.
Yeah, and pass it.
And then do the pass. And if they suspected that, if they saw what they thought on the camera was some kind of a pass, then they would take you and they'd put you in what they call a dry room, and they'd strip you down naked, and then you'd have to sit in there with a bucket for like 48 hours. And every time you'd have to take a shit, some guy would come in and get the bucket. I was always like, who gets to dig through that? Like who's the prisoner here? I mean, you guys got to go dig. I mean, go dig through. I mean, oh my God.
There was a show my son and I used to watch just because of the absurdity. It's called Border Patrol.
Oh yeah.
And there was one, I don't know where the border was, but they had a special kiosk, if you will, where it was like a shitter, like a glassed-in shitter.
Oh God.
That when somebody would, because they were, they assumed that they were smuggling them in their butt. That
right, or eating the balloons and
shit. Yep, they would have to shit, and it would go slide down to some like X-ray.
Oh my God.
X-ray thing.
Can you imagine having that job?
Probably pretty shitty.
I was like the guy when I first went any place we'd go in, that's the first thing that would happen, and there was a guy that would, I mean, that's what the guy would do all day. So, I mean, you go in on a bus into the joint, and there's 60 guys on the bus, and he's got to look at every single, I mean, he's got to look at all that. And there's, I mean,
that probably phases him at that point.
But still, I mean, I guess you must not have any other options in life if that's what you're. Because I tell you what, the first day somebody tells me
really well, which I bet it didn't.
It's not that great. I think they start around 18, and they can get up to 26, 27. It's not that much money.
Yeah, that's
to sit there and look at some dudes to sit there and look at some dudes, butt all day. I mean, all day. I mean, and then they're sitting there wearing their their uniform like they're all fit. It's like, dude, what's your job, man? You just sit there and look at buttholes all day, man. It's like, I mean, can you imagine? Maybe that
was like their version of the shoe. They
I don't know. God.
On cafeteria duty, and they had to. All right,
yeah, maybe. Duty. Yeah, you done screwed up. And you got to go look at the gurgling brown eyes all day. I mean, I just can't even imagine. Or working in the visiting room, like the exit of the visiting room. I mean, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that visiting room is just guys in and out the whole time it's open. I mean,
sure.
And that's what the guy that's in that back area, that's what he does. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 little, so you leave and you got to go in there and strip it down. And I mean, it got to the point where it was just hilarious because, at first you're like feeling like violated,
Sure.
But then it's like, all right.
It's amazing what humans can adjust to when required.
Oh, for sure. And it just becomes funny too when you think. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm getting out of here, and this dude's stuck.
Still looking at buttholes.
Yeah, that's what I told the cat that walked me off. He and I had a really bad relationship, and I don't know why. He just didn't like me because I messed with the child molesters. I didn't make their lives very easy, and he didn't like that because he always have to take me to the shoe. So, but he's walking me off the yard, and he didn't have to cuff me up. I'm going home, but he cuffs me up anyways, just to be a dick. And so he's walking behind me. He's like, I'm gonna be sitting here. I'm gonna be waiting for you when you come back. And I'm walking in front of him. And I'm just cold strolling because I know I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm just talking over my shoulder. I'm like, hey, you know what, officer? I said, here's the deal, man. I said, the thing is, I'm going home, man. I said, you're stuck here. And I said, I ain't ever coming back and seeing your ass
Yeah.
again. I said, but
Yeah.
you're stuck here because I said, you couldn't even work at hot dog on a stick. This is where you're at. You know, I got him that one
Yep.
last time, you know, and he was pissed, but whatever. I mean, he
Yep.
knew it was true, you know, I
Hmm.
mean, what a shitty job.
Literally.
I'm working TSA. Can you imagine doing that?
No.
You notice how all of them got that front butt too? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They look like a fucking garbage bag stuffed with cream corn.
A little bit sometimes.
They all got that front butt, and then I love the guy that's like the town crier that sits right there and yells about the
Yeah.
water bottles all day. Can you imagine doing that all day?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go home feeling good about anything you did when you just sat there all day yelling about, you know, putting your water bottle in your water bottle with the explosives right next to me? It's like you're the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. Well, you know, I
I
guess
mean,
if it was
they can't
worse
believe
places
that there's
to be.
actually explosives because nobody would do that job if they actually thought for a second that there was explosives in the water bottles.
Yeah,
Would
I would
they?
agree. I agree. I know.
Anybody in
Yeah.
their right mind wouldn't do that job if you
Yeah. And
actually
they give you
thought,
water on the plane. So if it's like
yeah, I
the
mean,
water is going to mix with some other substance they bring on, okay, well, they'll just use the bathroom water or
why
whatever.
don't you just make somebody just take a drink of it?
Yeah.
Just take a drink. I mean, I wouldn't think that somebody would drink. I mean, I
Well,
wouldn't think
it
that
was
I don't even know how you
innocent
make clear
suicide
water
matter.
explosives.
Yeah.
I don't even know who came up with it. I've never even heard of that even being a thing. Have you?
I did. I heard a reason why they banned the like liquids and water and stuff, but um,
And
I
like
did have one situation where it was scissors. So this was, I don't know, 15 years ago. Um, I had a pair of, long story short, I had like a Mary Poppins purse that I hadn't been to the bottom of in like weeks. And
did you sing Nina Jankowicz?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, I'll let you continue.
Okay, no,
I'll pick up
so
with that after. You just said Mary Poppins. That's
yeah, so no, so it was just this giant ass purse that was like almost bottomless, and for
one of
work
those.
I had to bring scissors to a thing like weeks prior, and then we were taking a
Right.
trip, and they were literally like scissors like this long,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
my purse gets pulled, and I'm like,
What were you, shearing sheep?
well, I was cutting up like industrial Velcro, so
Oh,
almost
okay.
like sheep.
For
So
what? For what?
for a bulletin board thing, and so
Fair enough.
So he pulls these scissors out, and I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot those were in there. And I was like, shit, well, I know you have to keep them. And he goes, oh, no, maybe not. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, he goes, it's from the fulcrum to the tip. Let me measure them. And I forget what the measurement was required to be under.
Yeah.
But he goes, he measures them, and he goes, here, you can have them back. And I go, really? And he even goes, he goes, yeah, you can take those, but you can't take water. And I was like, well, you know what? At
Uh,
least he recognizes the
at least,
absurdity of
yeah.
our weird ass laws.
At least he got it.
Yep. I was like, all right, well, they're Fiskars, so I will take those back. Thank you.
From the fulcrum to the tip, did you say just the tip of it?
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was the one day that I got hit in Seattle with those stupid, just little like what you
Yeah,
used
now
to
they
like
don't let
trim
them
your
on
like
at all.
nose hair with, you know. And
Yep.
these two Chinese ladies were just screaming in Chinese at me. I didn't know what they were saying. They were pointing, they were trying to make me go back. And like the one lady, she said I had to go all the way back through security. Finally, a dude comes down the little tunnel going to the plane, and he sees what's going on, and he's like, no, 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 no. And he's like, what's going on here, sir? And I said, listen, I didn't realize I had these
Mm-hmm.
little toiletry scissors. I told them they can keep them, throw them away, do whatever. I said, I didn't realize I had them. I didn't, there's no intention here of anything
Yeah.
whatsoever to do with a little teeny tiny little pair of scissors. And the guy's like, no, no, just go ahead. And he grabbed them, like threw them in the trash, and
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, it was just like, what in the world? I mean, it's just, like I said, I've gone through a couple times with the pocket knife. I've given a couple knives away to them. It's like,
yep.
here, you want this? You know, and they're like, well, you need to go put it back in your. I'm like, I'm not going out to my vehicle. The plane's leaving. I'm parked in long-term parking. Way the hell. It's like, no. Like,
So somebody was
you
telling me,
want?
I was telling the story. Somebody was saying that at least at the Anchorage airport, when they've done that, they will go bury them in a flower pot. And then when they come back, they'll retrieve it. I was like,
Oh
man, I
my
don't know if
God.
that's a good idea or not.
The last time I flew out of Anchorage, I got so drunk at Cheers. I did that
Oh yeah, yeah,
the norms challenge. Did you
yeah.
you ever see? Oh my
I
God,
have
you got
not
to
seen
drink
that.
like it's
I
like
would
12.
always drink at Humpy's.
Yeah, it was Cheers that they had. This was back in 1997, I think. That
Yeah,
dates that. I just turned 21 and I had like a 4 hour wait. And so I go
yeah.
into Cheers and I saw all the names on placards up on the wall. And I'm
Okay.
like, what's up with that? And they're like, well, if you do the norms challenge, then you get to keep the mug and your name goes up. And I'm like, what's that? And they pulled out this big, huge stein. And they're like, you got to drink
The
every
old
single beer.
96er.
They're like, you got to drink every single beer on tap in here in 2 hours out of this mug. And I'm like, you're encouraging me to. So I did. I drank 12 of those. It was like a 36-ounce mug, you know. I
Like the
mean,
movie The Great Outdoors.
oh my God, I was so drunk when I don't even remember how I got through security, but that was before 9/11. So you could really
Yeah,
just
it was
stagger through
easy.
it at that point in time. And it's Anchorage, but I was so shit
Yeah, it's
canned.
Anchorage. Everybody's a shit
I
show in
mean, oh my
Anchorage.
God. I think I even had weed in my pocket at the time. I think I had like a Kodiak chew can. It was full of weed, you know. It's like, I think I remember
It's been legal, it's been
I was
legal in
sitting.
Alaska since the 70s ish.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember finding it up there all the time when I was a kid. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it was growing everywhere. It wasn't a deal. You know, I mean, I don't know. And back then, it really didn't matter, but you know, anymore, it's crazy. We've just given up so much of our stupid freedom over this nonsense. You know, and it's never going to come back. They're just going to
Nope.
keep renewing the Patriot Act and all this nonsense. And for what? For what? Because we're scared. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're the ones that created the terrorists, anyways.
That is indeed.
You know, I mean,
Yep.
that's what's crazy about it. It's like, you know, I mean, I was telling my buddy the other night, I'm like, you know, every single person that I know that is, you know, Nation of Islam, Muslim faith, I mean, great friends, some best
Hmm.
people I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the same as somebody saying that because I'm an Odinist that I'm a white supremacist, you know, and it's just like, what, you know, just these perceptions we have. It's so ridiculous.
Well, and we go and stir the history of America and the world. We just like to go, stir the pot and
Yeah, well, yeah, and here we are. We're a country that's
areas that don't have
240.
any immediate impact on us. And then they're like, oh, whoa, like why is this world is now, or this region is now in turmoil? They're bad people. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
we kind of stirred that shit up. And
yeah, just a little bit. I mean, and I always make the analogy to people when they want to talk badly about, you know, people from the Middle East or whatever, you know, or the thing that drives me nuts is the proud to be an American shit. That when that dumbass song comes on,
mhm.
watching people, I mean, it's like, dude, what are you proud of, bro? It's like, you didn't have any choice where your mom spit you out.
Yeah,
It's like, did you make the decision to be born here? And then why are you proud of it? You had nothing to do with it. And it's like, do you think that there's actually motherfuckers that want to be born in fucking Senegal and fucking, you know, in the Congo and I mean, Sierra Leone and shit? You know, grow up in abject poverty and disease and
well,
genocide and shit.
we have children that grow up in abject poverty in America.
Exactly. But we can still send $40 billion over to fucking Ukraine for
Yeah,
God knows what, you know, because of who knows what kind of crooked shit. I mean, it's the most corrupt goddamn country on the planet. I mean, I mean, $20 billion ends homelessness in the United States. It
yeah,
ends it.
yeah.
20 billion. And you got a
Or
billionaire
you
that's
can buy an
spending
app.
that you got a billionaire putting out 44 billion to buy Twitter.
Yep, you can buy an app.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, if I was sitting on 260 whatever odd $1 billion and it took 20 to end homelessness,
Yep. Well,
I
and the
mean,
thing of it
literally,
is
I
like
think I could
people,
sit on 1 billion and be just fine
I'll
with it. I could
be
probably sit
okay.
on a
Yeah.
million and be just fine with it for the rest of my days.
Well, the thing of it is, too, the thing that drives me absolutely insane is when people villainize homeless people.
I
Well,
know it's
let's talk
horrible.
about the population of homeless. A huge portion of those homeless folks are veterans. So
Yep.
the very people who villainize homeless are the same exact people who are shish boom ba, we've got the best military, but fuck
Right.
them when they're out. You know,
Yeah.
we'll send
Support
these
our
most
troops.
men,
Support our
yeah,
troops. Rah,
support
rah,
our
rah.
troops,
Support
and
your
we'll
troops and
send our
bring them
troops over
home.
to do war and everything
Yep.
else and ask them to
Go.
live through
Yep.
horrors, but then they
Yep.
come back to the United States. It's like, well, sorry, you can't cope. Don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. Now you're useless. There's another, so that's part of it.
Yeah. Fuck off.
The other
And
part is,
then,
well, the other part, the other significant portion is foster kids who have aged out of the system,
sure.
and they, depending on the state, 18 or 21, now, well, they have no family, they have no support. Sucks to be you
Yep.
know, but by golly, we're going to make you have those babies. And as long as you have the
Yeah.
baby, fuck the baby when it's born. But as soon
Yep.
as that, if you're pregnant, you better have that baby. And we don't give two shits what happens post birth. And then there's a large portion of
That's
mentally
just
ill people.
right.
And I'm sorry,
Yeah. It's sick.
mental illness is not something you can take steps to correct, but at the same time,
it's the same as
you're
having
mentally
terminal
ill.
cancer.
Exactly.
And people have such a
Exactly.
stigma on it that they think that it's, I'm guilty of this because I've been through it. I went through this with my son's mom before she passed away. And finally, towards the end of her life, I just asked her, finally, I said, listen, I need to understand, like, what is this? What is it you go through? Because I always looked at it like it was an excuse to behave badly. And I was guilty of not.
Because it's a
I
behavior.
never I didn't understand it. Like I couldn't. And I still can't wrap my head around it. But
Sure.
I literally I was like, you just need to explain it to me so I can understand. I'm like, I'm sorry that I've judged you. I'm sorry that I've not been compassionate about it. I'm sorry for the way that I've approached this for these years. I'm like, but I honestly just want to know what. And she sat there and explained it all to me and what she goes through. And I was just like, holy shit. And I realized that there's a whole fucking bunch of people in this country that there's a stigma put on it. And these individuals that go through this, they're just kind of shunned off to these different facilities. They in and out of jail, never can find gainful employment. School doesn't work out.
Well,
Addiction takes over.
They're also at risk of all sorts of victimization. So they're at risk
Certainly. Yeah. And then the medications that they use are terrible.
And then it's all the fallout of being, a victim of battery or sexual assault.
Yeah.
And now you've got that trauma to deal with.
Right.
On top
Exactly.
Of,
yeah, exactly. And yeah,
circle.
she had all that. And then I asked her, I said, how many times have you been in and out of county jail since I've known? And it was like 213 times. I mean, and that was the thing too. It was, so then it's really a horrible thing. And I still want to do something to start some kind of a foundation or a fund or something, but I don't know what can really be done to help because it's like she would go through this where she would, go away to one of these facilities, sometimes upwards of a year, get on the medication and everything and be doing fine, leveled out. But come to find out the medication is terrible. It makes you feel like you're just like a slug.
Yep.
And then she said she'd feel like she was fine. She was okay. So she'd stop
taking
and then
the
voices would kick in.
Yep.
But you can't just start taking the meds again once you're off, I mean, it takes, 2 to 3 weeks to a month for exactly. So at that point in that position, you're kind of screwed. You're like out there in no man's land. You've got horrible voices in your head that sound real, that you think are real. And it's a bad thing. And I feel bad that I looked at it the way I did for so long, because at this point in time, I don't see it that way. I feel, but it's like you look at it, and I read studies and stuff about mental illness and schizophrenia and, being bipolar and all this. And it's like, what do you do to actually help this with somebody, other than this medication that makes a person feel like shit? It's like, I listened to, I remember one night I was in the SHU in prison. I was listening to this. It was Art Bell, the Coast to Coast on NPR late at night. And they were talking about lithium orotate versus lithium carbonate and how what they give you what they prescribe you is lithium orotate. And the reason they do that is because it's a prescription. And so they get a kickback on it. When, if they would prescribe people lithium carbonate, that actually helps people. And so I tried to tell her that at that time and get her to try and lean in that direction, because you can get it over the counter, but they don't want to prescribe it or push it because there's no, there's no patent on it. So there's no money in it for anybody. And that's a big problem too. So big pharma is part of the big problem. It's part of that's a huge part of the problem. You've got these people that are just making billions and billions of dollars off the death and destruction.
And the rest of the world, where there's laws in place that says, no, you're not going to do that, those same drug companies will sell the same exact drugs for, cost plus 15%. That's why I appreciate Mark Cuban, who just started the pharmaceutical company, that it's not, doesn't offer every single drug, prescription, but it offers quite a few where it's cost plus 15%. He's like,
look at the cost of, for a person that's diabetic, or look at somebody that needs an EpiPen. Like if you need EpiPens went from like $30 to like $600.
Yep.
I used to carry one of those because and it's crazy how your body changes, but I used to be allergic to watermelon, cantaloupe, avocados. And I used to carry one of those around with me. Yeah. And it's weird,
and they expire in 2 years. And so that's now,
but I quit. And then it's funny though, because they say that the cellular structure of your body changes like every 7 years. So my mom has always been allergic to avocados. And so we were up in Billings before one of my stepbrother's concerts back at the end of February. And we went to the Wild Ginger, which is like an Asian fusion / sushi restaurant.
Okay.
And so we ordered California rolls, and I said, Ma, you know what? Here's the deal. I said, from everything I've read, I said, you and I might not even be allergic to this anymore. You want to try us? Let's do a California roll and see. And she was like, huh? And I was like, come on. So we did, and neither one of us had a reaction to it.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to eat guacamole again.
Shellfish overnight. You can be. Like that's a common one.
Right. And your cellular, but it's weird to think about that your whole entire cellular structure changes. Like every 7 years, you're a different person. Isn't that weird?
It's fascinating, but
other than your brain.
So you're a different person, but you're not. It's like it has memory of some sort.
Yeah, but it was weird though, because I've been living who knows how long I've not been allergic. I just remember the last time that I ate a piece of watermelon, I damn near had to go to the hospital. And
that's crazy.
And I've tried all of it now, and I'm fine. It's like, wow, this is awesome. I love watermelon, and I like guacamole. Like my buddy Waldo, he owns Ceviche Loco in L.A. and he just takes the biggest amount of pride in his avocados.
Sure.
And so every time we'd go into his restaurant, he'd see me and my buddy Josh. He's snapping at his guy. And we'd go sit down, and he'd bring us beers we wouldn't even order. We didn't even have to order. And he in Spanish, put in our order to his guy, and he'd say, no avocados for the Mikey because he doesn't like them. And I'm like, and he'd get so mad. I'm like, Waldo, it's not that I don't like them. I'm allergic, man. But next time I go, I'm gonna eat them. Because he gets
my son and I were in Arizona, and my son really likes avocado. My son's super, super picky eater, and he likes avocado.
It's a superfood.
Yeah, well, it's a super expensive food up here. Usually, they're $3 a piece for a little teeny avocado, and they're rock
probably
hard.
All brown and
well, they're rock hard.
They're not even right.
They might not. You might buy an avocado, and then you can eat it in 2 weeks.
They probably send them up there. Yeah, they probably send them up there as soon as they
pretty much. The only time they go on sale is if they're about they don't they get a slow.
Do you know how long
shipment?
Do you know how long an apple typically sits on a truck before it gets on the store shelf?
9 months or something.
Yeah, it's close to a year.
Yeah, there's total.
That's crazy.
Say what you will about TikTok. I have learned so much shit on TikTok that
I've kind of got on there recently too.
What's that?
I've got on there recently too.
Yeah. So the thing, there's a farmer dude I follow, and he's talking about the food system in America, and he talked like this onion. It's an onion farm or whatever he was at, and
Right.
it is just the biggest warehouse you've ever seen. And he's like, we're harvesting onions, and these onions will actually make it to market next summer, not this summer. And uh,
Yeah.
it just fascinated me, and several of those, in farms, how they function. I find it fascinating.
Out in Idaho, if you've ever been across there, they've got the same thing, those huge potato warehouses. And
Hmm.
there's a certain restaurant, I'm not going to say the name because God knows what comes of that, but they have to have each potato the potatoes have to fall within a certain tolerance,
Yep.
and they're genetically modified to be the exact same. And these farmers that farm these potatoes, they fill up these warehouses and then they spray them down with a chemical
Hmm.
that has like a half life of over a week. And when they spray the stuff down, they take them and their family into their home, and they don't leave the home for over a week while this stuff like dissipates that they spray these things with. And then these things go to a certain restaurant,
Yeah.
and people line up around the block to eat these things that have 17 different chemicals in them. A French fry should have oil,
Salt.
salt, and some pepper if you
Potato.
like pepper. Yeah, and potato.
Potato.
17 ingredients in a French fry? Come on, you got to be out of
Yeah.
your mind. I mean, like down at the Silver Dollar, they'll take them and they have a press, and then they'll soak them in lemon juice. That's as bad as it gets there, you know.
Yeah. So they
But
don't brown.
but we don't know what we're eating even with that. I mean, all of our food is contaminated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah, everything. Anything that's GMO is full of Roundup, full of glyphosates. I mean, it's all cancer causing. You wonder why cancer has gone where it's gone over the last 50 years.
Hmm.
I mean, it's because of that. I mean, everything that we're eating is toxic. And I mean, when you're drinking Coca-Cola and you think that that thing can go on your battery and clean battery acid, and I mean,
Well, that's just America, because a good part of Europe has banned a lot of the food processing that's
right,
permitted here, because
yeah,
science states it's really bad for you. And so, but our freedoms, we're free
right,
to
yeah,
cause ourselves cancer.
free to be dumb.
Free to be dumb, free to get
If
cancer.
you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Pay for your cancer too. When you get
Yeah.
it, good luck paying for it.
Well, right, and then yeah, and then your treatment is poison. I mean, you
Yeah,
know, your chemotherapy is poison,
yeah, it
and
is.
you look like a guy like Dr. Rashid. I mean, he's got a treatment that has been pretty successful, and I mean, he's another guy that's pretty much banned off social media because he's got
Hmm.
a different outlook on things, just like Robert Malone. I mean, the guy's the head of a community of doctors that's like 16,000 different doctors. He's the guy that came up with the technology for the mRNA vaccines,
Hmm.
and he was throwing. I mean, he's been banned from Twitter, Facebook, any social media because he's come out and said what he has to say. And I mean, he's an interesting person to look into.
Hmm.
I mean, the guy's been doing this research since the 70s. I mean, why would he want to come out and say something against, something that he was a big part, the biggest part in creating? It's
I think part of
crazy.
it is, I think a lot of it is, it's a scientifically illiterate society.
Well, and I
Like,
think that
I mean,
that's,
we've got a whole huge population that now is like arguing the Earth is flat, and they believe
oh,
it.
I know.
It's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And
And the thing is too, you want to argue science. I mean, that's fine, but science is all based on hypotheses. And it's come up, I mean, it was, no, there I went again. I mean,
you'll be back. There
science
you are.
was, I mean, scientific method, scientific theory, the whole thing was developed by man. Man is fallible. I
Sure.
mean, look at what went on with this whole virus. How many misleading things did we get from science? How often did Tony Science lie to everybody?
I don't think it's so much
Per,
Tony Science lied. I just think his new
well,
data comes
for the
in.
initial thing he did with the mask, he came out and straight up said
Oh,
that was a
Fauci. Are
lie.
you talking about Fauci?
Yeah, yeah,
All
Tony
right.
Science.
I haven't heard him called that before.
That's what I call him because otherwise I'll get banned again.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
We
I
came out
think
to
as
one time.
more
He's like,
data becomes
I represent
available.
science. I'm like, why don't you go with Jeff Sessions and you guys go crawl in your Keebler tree?
Here's the thing with science that I think you probably for sure understand, but I think a large portion of the population doesn't understand. That when something is, science says, okay, ABC, but then they get more data. Okay, well, ABC then turns to, DEF. And people who are scientifically illiterate are like, oh, they didn't know what they were talking about when they said ABC, totally negating the fact that science has, when more evidence comes along, those hypotheses can change. They can adapt as evidence comes along and more data. And at least with the pandemic, it was an initially, limited data. And then as things went on, they got more data. So then methods and systems changed and adapted. And
I agree with you to that to a certain extent. A lot of that data was stuff that was. I think a lot of that data was stuff that was known, because obviously there was gain of function going on to develop the thing.
Sure.
So I think that there was a lot of the information that maybe wasn't disclosed. I don't know for sure. I can't say one way or another. But yes, I do certainly agree with you that as things get explored further and further, things we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, that comes up, and it certainly changes the way things are. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the vaccination because I get in trouble every time. And I mean, my point of view on it is, hey, if you want, if Steve Miller got a place in 3 weeks, what's his face? Jimmy Kimmel, he's got it twice in 3 weeks. I mean, I've had it twice. I mean, the first time I wouldn't wish that on anybody. The first time I had that shit, it almost killed me.
I've had it once. It was awful. My son ended up getting it, and it was nothing for him.
Yeah.
But
right, and I think my son had it when I got the Alpha. That one almost killed me, and I stopped.
Delta, I got Delta. It was awful.
Delta.
It was awful.
Day. I got over Delta in a day,
and
when
it was worse. It was like the 3 days.
I knew I had it, and when I knew that I had it, I said that I had it, and when I on the podcast what I had to take that I had already gotten a prescription for, when I shared that, I got banned for 2 weeks. And that was just my personal experience. And I said, listen, I'm not recommending this to anybody. Go to Tractor Supply.
Sure.
I was like, I got this is an RX. It came from a medical doctor, and I had it on hand because I knew if I got it again that I wanted to have anything in my arsenal that I could possibly have. And I knew that what I had was not harmful, anything other than maybe a minor stomach ache, which I didn't even, I mean, I took what I took, and within 24 hours, I was fine. I was absolutely fine. Whereas previously, it was not a good experience. I mean, I'd never felt anything like that in my life. I was so fatigued, I couldn't breathe. I mean, and I don't smoke. I mean, I haven't smoked in 5 years now. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, so it's not like I have any respiratory problems. I lost a bunch of weight. I mean,
would you consider the idea, the fact that you had it once before, your body knew what it was? So
I think so. I think that there was some immunity to it as well, but I still got the fatigue, and that's what I knew, because I got that same. It was the same feeling. Like I was like, oh God, this is I mean, it was the same feeling. So, and I did go, I think that did probably play a part in it, was having the the natural immunity.
Well, like
but when the thing mutates, though, it's just like the cold. It mutates, or the flu every year. It's a different strain. And I mean, what was it, 2018, where they inoculated everybody for influenza A, and then it was influenza B that came through and killed 85,000 people. And I mean, it's just it's one of those things where I don't think we fully even understand.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree.
What the fuck is? And then when we're sitting there and then when we're funding these laboratories that are, doing whatever it is that they're doing, I mean, that's a pretty scary thing. It made me wonder about. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Ukraine.
Monkeypox.
What?
To the monkeypox that have shown up.
Yeah, the monkeypox. Did you see that today? I saw that today for the first time. That shit looks terrible.
10% mortality rate.
That's some
And
scary looking
apparently
shit.
the smallpox vaccination will prevent monkeypox. But I mean, if you're not 60, none of us have been
I've had it.
vaccinated for smallpox.
No, it's been
And
eradicated from, yeah,
good luck getting people to take the smallpox vaccine in this day and age.
right.
Like,
I would I would take that though if it was, I mean, because you know that shit works.
yeah, I mean, you
You
and I
know that,
know it, but
you're not
you
going to get
also know,
like, look at Stephen Colbert. He did that whole song and dance thing on his show about it and everything. And then he gets it twice in 3 weeks. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, so here's this, like, what if this whole pandemic has just been, you know, uh, not a sham because people have died and it's a legit, it's a virus, it's a thing, it's not fake, but like propaganda to convince a huge portion of the population has turned away from science, has turned away from vaccines, even pre-pandemic. Like where there was the tying erroneously of tying vaccinations to autism that has been debunked. But now it wouldn't take much for a terrorist to easily release some sort of, other type of disease that would just
sure.
go run havoc through the population,
Right.
even if there was a vaccination.
Well, that's why I was bringing up Ukraine because they surrounded that it was like a steel mill in Ukraine, but it went like 10 floors under the ground, and the Azov, the neo-Nazi battalion regiment of the Ukrainian military, they were hiding out in there, and they had actually taken people as like human shield, hostages down there. And so the Russians had the place surrounded, but it's a steel mill and it's 10 stories underground. I mean, they could have very easily just found the ventilation system and just started dumping water down in there. And they didn't. They waited. They starved them out. But why in the hell do you? I mean, come on. There's something else that's down there in that steel mill. 10 floors. I mean, 10 stories under the ground.
I'm not familiar with that at
Well,
all.
yeah. I mean, you don't have a steel. I've never in my life heard. Why would you have a
Sure.
steel mill that's 10 stories underground? I mean, think about it. Anything that you can think of that's like got 10 stories that go underground. There's something
All
going
I'm
on under
thinking
there
is
that they don't want released up into the. You know what I mean?
the Umbrella Corporation.
Yeah. I mean, so and initially they talked about the labs over there that they were concerned with, and I mean the whole thing with Ukraine is just I don't think we're not getting the truth about any of it. I don't believe.
I don't think we
I
get the truth. I
hesitate.
honestly don't think we get the truth about anything
I don't think
at
so
all.
either. I mean,
Since Iraq,
84% of the United States didn't even know when they did a poll. 84% of the people asked didn't even know where Ukraine was. Our vice president gets out there and goes, "Yeah, it's a Ukraine is a country in Europe and it's bordered by this bigger country and they're called Russia." I was like, "Oh, thank you for the
yeah.
geography lesson there, Kamala."
Well, but here's the
I
thing,
mean,
though. I don't think you could hand most of America a map of the United States,
you
and it would
can't.
be able to actually accurately. I'm going to throw myself in that
Yeah.
batch.
Where do you
You get
live?
up into like the East Coast, Northeast. I'm not. I mean, Rhode Island. I would get. There's probably I would miss 5 states. Probably I would mislabel
Right.
a few states, but
There's a lot of guys I was locked up with that couldn't even show where they lived, where they came from on a map.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
and honestly, I mean, the majority of this country are idiots.
well,
I mean,
what was the thing? Like, it was like we used to have the feeling like with people didn't know something, it was just because you didn't have the opportunity to look it up. But now we've literally got the entire.
yeah, the
We've got
world
the
of
equivalent of the
information.
Library of Alexandria in our back
Yeah.
pocket, and we
The
still don't know shit.
yeah, the recorded history of mankind is right there in your pocket.
Yep.
I tell my son that when he has problems with school, I said, dude, I said, you have this device. I took his phone away from him once, and I took his
Lord.
phone and I went and I got the box of Funkin' Wagnalls encyclopedias that I saved up Wheaties box labels for when I was a kid to get.
How old's your boy now?
14.
14.
This was a couple years back. So I took his phone and I threw that box of encyclopedias in there and I said, there you go. I said, that's how we learned. That was our world of information. I mean, and you couldn't check out an encyclopedia from the library.
Yeah,
Like I
no, because
remember, I
it
mean,
needed to
even
be
in
there for
college,
everybody.
I remember being in there till they would till like the minute they would have to run me out. I'd have encyclopedias and
Yep,
like all the reference books. They wouldn't let you check them out. And I'm trying to get a paper done. We didn't have the
yep.
internet. I'm sitting there
Yeah,
like taking notes, and
you
I
didn't
mean,
have the internet.
and I'm going
Exactly.
just one more minute, just one more minute, just one. You know, you're flipping through pages. I mean, that was where you got your information from. Now, I mean, he comes to me with the math problem. I mean, even if it's something that I've forgotten,
Hmm.
I'm just like, doop, 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 you know,
Yep,
that's like,
yep.
there it is,
Well, and the
you
other
know,
thing is being able to
That-
vet information.
right. You have to be able to
Like,
think critically, and you have to be able
yeah,
to, yeah, because you have to definitely back things up.
yep.
I mean, you
And
got to be
not
able to
just
do
taking
that.
the first source as,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You can't just believe everything. That's the problem too, is, and
My son and I had a conversation. I was like, he had an incident at school, he made a poor choice. And I had to define some things for him, some definitions of some certain things.
right.
And I said, here's going forward. I said, if you don't know the definition of something, maybe you shouldn't use the word or the phrase if you don't know what it means.
That's what I always
And,
say too. I tell my son the
and
same thing.
I
I said,
said,
if you
here's the
can't
deal.
personally verify it, if you can't back it up, if you can't verify it
Uh-huh.
100%, and you can't put, I said, you're going to make mistakes, but if you don't say something and you feel 100% behind it, don't
Yep.
say it,
Well, and I
you
even
know,
said to him
until
too,
you
I was
know. I
like,
mean,
look,
I try to be the same way. I
going
mean, I try
forward,
not
I
to
said,
put
going
anything out there that
forward,
I don't. And
there's going to
sometimes,
be
I mean, I'll
topics
screw
that you
up,
don't know. There's going to be
but
topics you don't
you know,
know.
I don't
There's
know
going to be
how
words
many
you don't
times do you see
know.
people put some stupid meme out there on Bookface or whatever the hell
Hmm.
that's just like the one that went out a few years ago, and it showed the wall in Israel, and it said it was between like Chiapas and Guatemala. It was
The
not
wall in
it was the
Israel,
wall in Israel, and they're
the
saying, well, if
Wailing
Mexico
Wall.
put a wall on the southern border, you know, I had a ton of people on my feed to put that up, and I had to kind of, I didn't put anybody on blast, but I sent them private
Right.
messages, and I was like, dude, you know, you need to look at that meme that you put out there and understand that what you just put out there is like that wall is in, you know, that's in Israel, dude. It's like
Hmm.
it's not southern Mexico between there and Guatemala. So there's one like fence down there. And that's at the
Hmm.
check station, and that's it. And it goes like 100 yards one way and 100 yards the other way. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, people just put that shit out there all the time. It's just like, oh crap, what the hell did I do? I gotta turn this off. Oh, it's on my phone. Good Lord, what did I do? God and baby Jesus, help us all. Oh no, it's making all kinds of crazy feedback. All right.
Boom.
Oh no. All right. Are we back?
Yep.
Can you
Can
hear
you hear
me?
me? I can hear you. Can you hear
Did
me?
I lose you?
No, I can hear
Hello.
you.
Oh jeez. What did I do? Oh
Yeah, I can hear you.
goodness. Oh
Can you hear
boy.
me?
Now I did it. Oh
I'm gonna message
goodness.
you.
What have I done?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Son of a. Well, we're gonna have to end this if anybody can hear me. Summer, can you? I can't see you. Well, I can see you, but you're definitely, there's nothing coming through. Okay, you're not moving. Somehow this came up on my phone. Speaking of these stupid things, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, my feed was making all kinds of crazy noise. Now I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know what to do.
Can you hear me?
I don't know. It was on my, apparently my phone had picked up the feed. And so when I turned that off, the whole thing just died. So it
I
says
can
we're
hear
still
you.
live. I'm just trying to figure out how to bring you back on.
Uh,
Let me see. I'm just going to turn you off and then I'm going to bring you back.
can you hear me?
Okay. Anything?
Hold on.
Nothing? Okay. Yeah, if you log back out, then. Okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what happened there. I just happened to, we were talking about phones and I looked down on my phone and all of a sudden I realized that, okay, let's try this.
You see me? You hear me?
All right.
Can you hear me?
I've got no video.
You can hear me? You can hear me though? I see me.
Something bad's happened here. What is going on?
Can you hear me?
Well, I really screwed this one up, folks. I definitely can't see you, Summer.
Can you hear me?
Might have to, I don't know. Let's see. Let me go to my settings and see what we have going on here. All right, that's good. Audio looks fine. I just don't have any video. I'm gonna bring you back up here, Summer. I don't know. We might have to. I don't know why we've got this going on here. Well,
I can see both of us.
right,
I can't now.
that. Let's back up.
I see both of us.
I don't know if you can hear me, Summer, but I've got no video for you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Huh.
Lay down.
Well, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. We might have to either reconvene this thing or we might have to wrap it up. I'm not sure. Well, this is kind of shitty. Good grief. Yeah, I guess we're going to call it a night and we'll go, we'll do this again. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for this. That was unforeseen. Unforeseen. And I'm trying to figure out what in the world is going on here and why this is happening. But all right, well, Summer, if you can't hear me, thanks for the conversation tonight. It was great catching up with you. I don't know how far we're in, but we went for quite some time, hour and 23 minutes. I think we probably could have kept going. But I'm going to shut it down. Thanks, Summer. Appreciate you coming on. And we will we'll do it again later. All right. To everybody out there, be good or be good at it. In all things, be kind and do no harm. And I'm out of here. Till next time.